एसीटी देसी पे मैं हमेशा कोशिश करता हूँ कि एक प्लेटफॉर्म ऐसा बनाऊं कि जिसमें नॉट जस्ट अबाउट म्यूजिक बट and not just about just particular one language. It's about India, and India is a lot of multicultural amalgamation of things, which has culture, which has dance form, which has drama, which have Bollywood, probably the biggest movie filmmaking churning kind of thing. But it's just not about Bollywood, Bangla music, and as I keep saying that it's about India and a lot of things that we know and we are probably not aware about. So it's a platform to talk about those. एंड इसी के चलते आज का जो शो मैं आपके लिए लेके आया हूँ एसीटी देसी पे, उसमें मैं बात करूंगा एक ऐसे डांस ड्रामा की जो आई थिंक इट्स इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग आई विल चेक विद माय गेस्ट हु इज हियर टुनाइट, बट आई थिंक इट्स 15th सेंचुरी ऑनवर्ड, जो बहुत पुराना डांस माइथोलॉजिकल डांस फॉर्म है जिसके बारे में शायद कुछ लोगों को पता है. इट्स वेरी लिमिटेड, but she is doing a good work in spreading the word, and that's what this episode of ACT Desi is all about. And today with me I have Suhasini Sumithra, and I'll just introduce her and let her talk about this because I'm not an expert on this, and that's why she is here today. Welcome, Suhasini.
Hello, thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And Suhasini, today we are talking about dance drama and mythology and what is this all about. And I know that you are playing one major part in this dance drama as well, but before that I want to know who Suhasini is. And I know that you're from India, but I want to usually what I do in my show is when I talk to Indians who are in Australia, maybe first generation, second generation, I don't know about you that much. So I would like you to tell me, what's your journey been from India to this place, and how long have you been here? Where all have you been, and any nuggets and any interesting thing that you want to share?
Sure. No, that's all good. So my family is Telugu speaking and Kannada speaking, but we're from Bangalore. That's where my parents were born. But I actually was born in the States, and I lived there for many years until I did my studies and university degree there, and then I moved to Australia. So I guess I'm part of that Indian diaspora. And dancing, I was very privileged to be introduced to classical Indian dance from a young age in the States. And it's been something I've really enjoyed having as a hobby, and I'm very passionate about. And it's one of my strongest cultural ties, I think, to India, which is great. So
right.
Yeah,
and how and you said that you were in States, you were born in States, and then you after your studies or for your studies you traveled to Australia. But which year did you come here, and which part of Australia?
Yeah, sure. So I actually moved to Australia in 2008 to Sydney, and I was in Sydney for several years, I think 4 or 5 years, and then I moved to Canberra for 4 or 5 years.
Sure.
Before moving back to Sydney. Yeah.
Right. And just a little bit of trivia about how I know Suhasini. And it's a funny thing because we've met each other a couple of times when I used to work with one of the not-for-profit organizations in Australia as my first job when I started working with them. And she was part of the board, the youth wing, and probably she was in one of the communications workshop. And just few days ago, I happened to stumble upon this show that we are going to talk about. And I said, the name sounds very familiar. And I reached out to her and said, I'm sorry, I'm just putting this out to you, but I think I know you, your just name sounds quite familiar and your face sounds. And she said, yeah. And I also think that your name and your face sounds very, very familiar. So that's how this all conversation began. And today we are sitting here on ACT Desi and talking about this. So we will talk about this dance drama and talk about what the origins are and what are the intricacies involved. But before that, as this is a musical show, and I like to keep that as a balancing factor, just not conversation. So we will play one song just now after this conversation, and we will come back with Suhasini and talk more about the dance form that we are going to talk about. So आप है मेरे यानी आपके अपने देसी आरजे विकास के साथ, और ये है ACT देसी जो आता है हर शुक्रवार रात 8:30 बजे इन कैनबरा और 3 बजे इन इंडिया, ओनली ऑन 2XX FM 98.3 पीपल पावर रेडियो, और अब ये ऑल्सो अवेलेबल है मिक्स क्लाउड पे। अगर आप mixcloud.com पे जाएंगे /ACT Desi तो मेरे शोज आपको वहां पे भी मिलेंगे। तो कहीं जाइएगा नहीं, मैं भी वापस आता हूँ। नमस्ते, सलाम, सत श्री अकाल, वनक्कम, केमचो। तो ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले हमने बात की, हमारे गेस्ट जो आज की है सुहासिनी सुमित्रा, और एक ऐसी डांस फॉर्म जो प्रोबेबली 15th सेंचुरी से पहले या उसके बाद से शुरू हुई और इंडिया में बहुत अच्छी तरीके से जानी जाती है। लेकिन वो क्या डांस फॉर्म है उसके बारे में हम और जानेंगे आज। तो चलते हैं वापस हमारे गेस्ट के साथ और जानते हैं इसके बारे में। सुहासिनी, ये डांस फॉर्म के बारे में थोड़ा बताइए। पहले तो आप सिर्फ डांस फॉर्म के बारे में बताइए, इसकी ओरिजिन्स क्या हैं, व्हाट आर दी, बिकॉज इंडिया इज लाइक
Mm.
फुल ऑफ, एज आई से, लाइक pot of, melting pot of talent and melting pots of culture and all those things. And we are talking about one of the dance form which is probably very old, and it has a lot of significance in our culture, in our heritage, and people all over the world basically would like to know more about it, because my
Sure,
show goes not just to Australia but people from outside
sure.
Australia as well. So what is this dance form, the name of the dance form?
So the name of the dance form is Kuchipudi. So it's one of the classical Indian dance forms of India that originated in South India. Um, and it was originally more of a folk dance form, and it wasn't typically associated with one of being a classical dance style.
Mm-hmm.
My dance teacher, Vanaja Dasika, who's in Canberra, who is directing this particular production, her uncle, Guru Dr. Vempati Chinnasatyam, what he did with the dance style is he took that, he was so passionate about Kuchipudi that he took it and he lined it up with the Natya Shastra, which is like India's dramatic handbook on dramatic arts. So he made it more systematic and made it like a routine classical Indian dance form. And since he's done that, he's kind of put Kuchipudi on the world map, and he's made it a very popular classical Indian dance form. It's not as popular as Bharatanatyam. A lot of people get them confused because they haven't seen Kuchipudi as much, which is why we wanted to promote it more in Australia.
And then that's the reason why I wanted to quickly touch upon this topic, since you've already talked about it. Like, we know Bharatnatyam, which is very famous, and it's a very intricate dance form, and then there are a lot of other dance forms like Kuchipudi, and then each state has its own dance form. And Kuchipudi is also from the southern side, which is, I think, Andhra Pradesh, the origins of it. Would you just, if you have to compare a little bit, like couple of things between Bharatnatyam and Kuchipudi, just two things, if you want to just share with the audience.
So one of the main differences is the language. Like you said, they're from different states. So Bharatanatyam is in Tamil, whereas Kuchipudi is in Telugu. But if you look at the footwork and the handwork, they're very similar in terms of like the gestures and the facial expressions. But Kuchipudi often has more of a sway. The Bharatanatyam is quite geometric. There's a lot of like triangle formations, whereas Kuchipudi is a little bit more off-centered. And there's it was originally done a lot by men, so the movements are very big and vigorous in comparison to Bharatanatyam. And I guess another feature with Kuchipudi is that the dancers traditionally would sing along while they dance. So these days we don't do that, but we lip sync the words, whereas in Bharatanatyam that doesn't happen as often. So yeah, some differences there.
A very interesting point that you made here, like it's Kuchipudi, if I'm not wrong, and I heard right, is usually was performed by men more than women. Is that right?
I think so. What I've been told from my dance teachers that women were learning it, but because it was a traveling art form, it was hard at the time for women to travel. So a lot of the times the men would go and perform the dance dramas. And so they would dress up like women for some of the characters. And so it's interesting.
Yeah. I think many of the dance forms, originated were very old. Mostly men used to dress up as women, because as one of the factors, maybe what you said is like traveling, and women had the family thing to manage at home the kids and everything. So men used to earn as like traditional, not what we do and practice right now in today's world. Men and women are very equal and earning equally, and they're balancing out their lives. but old days, the means were limited, and possibly these dance dramas were basically for the enjoyment and passing the time and talk about the stories, basically in stories, right?
Yeah. But it's interesting nowadays, mainly women are the ones dancing. It's a bit of a shift.
आप है मेरे यानी आपके अपने देसी आर्य विकास के साथ, और आज है मेरे साथ एक स्पेशल गेस्ट सुहासिनी सुमित्रा, जो हमारे पास लेके आ रही हैं कैनबरा में एक ऐसी एंशियंट डांस फॉर्म जिसको प्रोपोगेट कर रही है, जिसके बारे में वो बात कर रही हैं। और मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ एसिड देसी प्लेटफॉर्म के थ्रू आप तक उसको पहुंचाने, ताकि कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ें हमारे कल्चर, हमारे ट्रेडिशंस के बारे में आपको पता चले। तो ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले हमने बात की सुहासिनी के बारे में और ये डांस फॉर्म क्या है। अब हम बात करेंगे इस पर्टिकुलर शो के बारे में, इस इवेंट के बारे में जो होने जा रहा है, और उसका नाम है परिजातम। तो सुहासिनी, मैं तो ज्यादा बात नहीं करूंगा, मैं बीच बीच में आपको तंग करता रहूंगा, बट वी विल टॉक अबाउट परिजातम एंड जस्ट टेक अस थ्रू व्हाट परिजातम as a word means, and then a
Sure.
story behind it, and then we'll go with the flow.
Yeah, sure. Well, Parijatam, I don't know what Jatam means, but Parijata is a jasmine flower.
Yeah.
So basically what happens in the story, there's four characters in this dance drama. There's Narada, Lord Krishna, and then two of Lord Krishna's consorts, Rukmini and Satyabhama. So Satyabhama is very feisty, and she's very, very proud woman. She's a nice person, but she's just her bad quality is that she's very proud, and she often thinks she's the most beautiful person, even compared to Krishna, and she wants Krishna for herself all the time. Whereas Rukmini is very gentle and very devoted to Krishna. So in the story, Narada, as you're aware, is a very mischievous but wise person, and the play starts off, he's very bored, like he wants to scheme up another plot to feed his hunger, his appetite for creating mischief. So he decides, aha, this is what I'll do. I'll give Krishna the parijata flower, the jasmine flower, and I'll tell him to give it to his favorite consort, who is Rukmini. So Krishna does that. He gives the flower to Rukmini. He knows that it'll create conflict between Rukmini and Satyabhama. But at the same time, both he and Narada want to bring down Satyabhama's ego. So they know that this will kind of help with doing that. So in the second half of the production, Satyabhama realizes that Krishna has given the flower to Rukmini. So Narada comes and tells her, and she gets very angry. Naturally. So Krishna comes to her, and Satyabhama says to Krishna, how dare you give that flower to Rukmini, not to me? And Krishna says, okay. What if I give you a whole parijata tree? Right. So she says, okay, I'll take that tree. But then Rukmini is so devoted to Krishna, and because of that devotion, all of the flowers from Satyabhama's parijata tree fall into Rukmini's garden. So Satyabhama gets angry again. She says, how have you stolen all my flowers, and you've stolen Lord Krishna from me? So there's a fight scene. But in the end, Narada comes and says, you need to realize that devotion is the most important thing, and that's the only way you can reach Lord Krishna. And Satyabhama realizes this, and she begs his forgiveness, and all is well. But that's the story. So it's a very simple story, but it's the way that it's demonstrated from a visual perspective, it's beautiful, and the music is beautiful as well.
And interesting that you talked about Rukmini and Satyabhama and these characters in this dance drama. We have Lord Krishna, we have Narada, we have the two consorts of Lord Krishna. The interesting thing for me as an audience, or just to listen to this, is the emotional part of this entire thing, and then how the emotional side of human beings are played upon, and then there's always a learning. So people who don't know a little bit about Narada and the Indian mythology, he's like the guy who has a lot of wisdom, and then he'll go to everyone, and then he'll and if he gets bored, as what Suhasini said, like he'll go to people and basically gods, and then try to stir up emotions, and out of all those things that he draw. So basically, if you see that he's gone to Lord Krishna and given the jasmine flower to give it to Rukmani, but then he goes to Satyabhama to then tells that he's given to Rukmani, and then so that's why she gets angry. So the anger, the emotion, the love, the devotion, so all these things, so it's very interesting. So this is what the Indian mythology and the art forms that we have. We talk about the learnings of the human nature, the behaviors, and how all these things are presented through these ancient dance forms like Kuchipudi and this dance drama Parijatam. आप है मेरे यानी आपके अपने देसी आर्य विकास के साथ, और आज हम हैं एक स्पेशल गेस्ट के साथ, और अब बात कर रहे हैं एक एंशिएंट डांस फॉर्म के बारे में और एक इवेंट जो होने वाला है कैनबरा में, जैसे मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी बता दिया है। और वो डांस फॉर्म है कुचिपुड़ी और शो का नाम है परिजातम। लेकिन अब हम जो बात करने जा रहे हैं वो बहुत मुद्दे की बात है, क्योंकि आजकल जो करंट जनरेशन है, वी डू हैव लॉट्स ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टुवर्ड्स द फ्यूचर and our current generation and the future generations to come, because culture, if we don't pass on from one generation to the other, it will be lost in transition. So जो आज मैं सुहासिनी से अब बात करने वाला हूँ वो थोड़ा सा टफ स्पॉट में मैं डालूंगा सुहासिनी को, and we will be asking some questions and her feedback and insights around it, because she has lived in the States, which is on the other side, and we are now in Australia, which is very on the other side, a different culture, different situation, environment, and everything. So Suhasini, what is your aim or mission around it? And just if you have to summarize in like couple of lines. I understand it's about spreading the culture and talk about the dance form, but what's that main mission, like if you have to say mission statement for doing this thing is?
Well, like you said just then, this is a tradition that's been passed down for generations, and we really want to keep it alive around the world, and in Australia. So luckily, when I was growing up in the States, there was a lot of the Indian community was very strong, especially where I grew up. And there were a lot of cultural events that were happening, and people would support them, in Indian dancing in its traditional form, which was very special. And I want to keep doing that in Australia as well.
Sure.
I think, as I've mentioned, Kuchipudi is not very well known in Australia. It's probably more known in the USA, but not as much there also, even within the Indian community. So I think it's very important to raise awareness so that this ancient art form doesn't die out. And also, like Master Garu, that's my dance teacher's uncle, has passed away, and his son, who is an excellent dancer, both his sons have passed away, but one of them who's the dancer, I think it's really important that we recognize their contributions and continue to keep their traditions alive.
I completely agree, and with what you're saying, and it's something which is very important for us to keep this tradition alive. But going ahead further down, and why do you think it is important for the generation to know? I mean, the future or the current generation to know about these things, participate in these things. I mean, why? I mean, we want to keep it going, but what if the generations are not really interested in it, that which you're looking at right now?
And you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, they might not be interested. It's hard. A lot of people see Bollywood dancing and they think that's India.
Yeah.
But it's only one small part of India's dance and cultural tradition. And a lot of Bollywood dancing, like a lot of it's modern now and uses like contemporary movements, but a lot of the traditional Bollywood movies had classical Indian dance forms in them. And I think we've forgotten that that's what India is and like India's tradition. So yes, you're right. There might not be interest, but we can only try and keep.
And that's what we can do our best, because that's what we are doing here today, sitting here and talking about, and this message, even if it spreads to say 10 people, we are reaching somewhere, right?
Exactly.
And I think it's very important to have this culture, traditional pass on to the generations,
Mm.
because history is something that what we have. Future is something we don't know. History is something that is very concrete, and that's what defines us probably.
Yeah.
uh, what has been the response of the audiences so far? I know this event that you're doing is in support from the government here, like,
Yes.
but what has the audience response been to this? I mean, do you see a lot
Mm.
of audiences apart from people who speak Telugu from other parts of India, and then extension to it is people in
Mm.
Australia who are Australians probably from different
Yeah.
parts of the world who are settled in Australia, coming
Yeah.
to the show and say, oh yeah, this is something new, I really like it. What has been the
Absolutely.
response so far?
Well, we really, with that, what you said in the second bit there, we really wanted to target non-Indian audiences as well, because it's you don't have to know about Kuchipudi or like the language to appreciate this dance form. It should all be there in the visualizations, and of course we have translations in our recordings so people
Sure.
know what's going on. We've been lucky. Like, I mean, I've been spreading the word to friends and family who are not Indian background, and all to our networks that are not Indian, and they've been very interested. Hopefully they'll come along.
Yeah.
But I know, like at ANU, there's the SARI, the South Asian Research Institute, and there are a couple key members there who are very interested in Indian culture, and they've been uh, interested in coming to the event and promoting it. And we've had ticket sales from people who are not Telugu speaking or
Right.
not even Indian. So it's great to see that reach. Um, and hopefully we'll get more people from the Indian community as well. Like,
Right.
it's a special thing.
आज का शो मेरे लिए स्पेशली बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है बिकॉज मैंने बात की आज सुहासिनी सुमित्रा से, जो कुचिपुड़ी डांस फॉर्म को प्रमोट कर रही है ऑस्ट्रेलिया में. शी इज बीन in US and then now in Australia, and she's been connected to this dance form for quite long. And typically there are certain things, obviously we can agree to disagree on this, but हम जब इंडिया की बात करते हैं तो हम बोलते हैं बॉलीवुड, भांगड़ा, बटर चिकन, and these are like limited mindset that we have. But I keep saying on my show all the time, this is not just about Bollywood, Bhangra, and butter chicken, which is incidentally all starts with B. But we have Bharatnatyam, we have Baisakhi, we have Kuchipudi, we have all the other alphabets in our dictionary, that we have so many things in India and culture, and that is all about India. So we need to promote that, we need to talk more about it so that people know about that. So today we have with us, as I said, Suhasini, and we've talked about a lot of things on this show, and you can just stream it on demand once again and listen to it. But there's a very interesting conversation, and now we are towards the end of it. We are going to talk about the show specifically, which is going to happen. When is it going to happen? Who is in it? What they are doing? And when is it happening? So
Yeah.
Suhasini, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So we have two shows. They're both on November 6th at the Gungahlin College Theatre. And one's at 2:30. So for people who want a more family-friendly time, that's a good slot, or at 5:30.
Sure.
And
which date is it?
The November 6th of
Both
both of
are
them.
the
Yeah,
same?
yeah, yeah. They're on the same day, November 6th. So you can even come to both back to back if you'd like.
Yeah, why not?
See the
If it's only
improvement.
one ticket for both shows.
Well, we could work a deal. And the ticket prices, we've kept them low purposely. So they start at $15 for children, up till age 15, I think, then $20. And we've got a family package, which from memory is either $50 or $60 for 3
Sure.
tickets. So that's, I think it's a pretty good deal for what you're getting.
It is, definitely. So what about the cast, the main protagonist of this dance drama?
Sure. So there's 4 of us. So there's 2 characters who are male characters, but they are played by females, all of us. So there's Narada, who's played by Jade Das. She's only been doing Kuchipudi for a few years, but she's done a lot of other classical Indian dance before. And she's just, she's amazing at how quickly she picks up things, and her expressions as Narada are fantastic. So really something to see.
Sure.
Divyusha is playing Krishna, and Divyusha has got a master's in Kuchipudi, so she's like super awesome. She's been doing this.
Yeah.
She's got very extensive knowledge in Kuchipudi. Satyabama is played by, excuse me, our dance teacher, Manager Dasika, who is the niece of Dr. Vempati Chinnasatyam, our guru, who really popularized Kuchipudi and made it what it is. And Manager Garo is very dedicated to the Kuchipudi art form and keeping it in its most pure form in Australia. And she's an amazing teacher and a spectacular dancer. So it's great to be seeing her perform. And we're very privileged to be on the stage with her.
And what about you?
And I'm playing Rukmini.
You are the tender one.
I'm the tender one. Can't say I'm always like that in person, but it's a really
I would attest to that. At least whatever I know. So
oh, thank you. That's different with family. No, it's great. I'm very privileged to be playing the role of Rukmini. It's a fun role to be dancing. It's really beautiful, so enjoy it.
Yeah, please carry on. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say if people wanted to get tickets to the show, go to trybooking.com, and if you look up Parijatam Canberra, you see it there, or you can buy tickets at the door as well.
Yeah, and sure, no worries. If I'll be putting it out on my social media channel, and you can go on that link, and you can just visit directly there.
Sure.
And and then quickly, I just want to ask you one thing. Like, there are people who really want to get into support the art and culture of India and pass on that tradition. There are certain grants available. How do we go about it? If you could quickly just turn around.
Of course. Oh, and that was so important. I would like to acknowledge that we've been given a grant from the ACT government through the Arts ACT. So we're very fortunate. And I think they're very supportive. So I applied for a grant. And basically, you're asked a couple questions about what you're doing and what sort of value this will add.
All right, so Asni, it was really nice, talking to you and connecting after so long. I think after 3 years almost.
Must be, yeah. Lovely to chat.
Yeah, and then would hopefully meet you soon in person, and then we can discuss more about what we can do together. But it was really, really nice, and whatever you're doing, and your team is like fantastic, and keep doing the good work, and reach out to me if you need any support. And our audiences who are there watching you would please, I'll urge everyone, just go on the link on this description, and then just buy the tickets and support the art form.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, sorry, please carry on.
Oh no, I was just saying thank you.
All right. No, it's I should be saying thank you, and people like us who are you're taking out time and doing a lot of stuff to keep the thing going on. तो आज का शो भी बातें करते करते खत्म हो गया, और आपको होपफुली कुछ थोड़ी सी और इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली होगी इंडियन कल्चर के बारे में. यू माइट हैव लर्न अ लिटिल बिट मोर अबाउट India, and it's not just about all those 3 things that I said. There's a lot more to it, and I'll keep exploring those aspects of India and its culture and tradition and rich heritage that we have. So do tune in to ACT Desi every Friday 8:30, as I said, and you can also listen to the show on Mixcloud/ACT Desi. तो जब तक हम मिलते हैं दोबारा, अपना ख्याल रखिएगा. शुभ रात्रि, शब्बा खैर, गुड नाइट.